The courthouse buzzed with its usual chaos on that crisp Monday morning. Lawyers in polished suits hurried across the marble steps, their briefcases bouncing against their sides as they rushed toward hearings that could make or break careers. Reporters clustered near the entrance, waiting for stories to unfold. Everyday citizens, clutching folders and wrinkled envelopes, shuffled nervously through the security lines. The air felt heavy, a mix of stale coffee, anxiety, and the quiet hum of justice being prepared behind those tall stone walls. Among the crowd moved a man who stood out, not because he tried to, but because his very presence demanded attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, his posture was unshakably straight. Even in a plain navy blue suit, his bearing was unmistakably military. Years of discipline had carved a natural authority into the way he walked, measured, confident, calm. His close-cropped silver hair glistened faintly under the morning sun, and his dark brown skin carried the quiet dignity of a man who had endured more than most could imagine. Marcus Daniels was no ordinary citizen. He had served over 3 decades in the U.S. Army, rising through the ranks with honor. His chest had once borne ribbons and medals that represented sacrifice, tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, humanitarian missions in disaster zones, classified operations whispered about only in the halls of the Pentagon. To his soldiers, he was more than a commander, he was a protector, a father figure, a man who would never ask them to endure a burden he himself had not carried. But today, there were no medals, no uniform, no protective convoy. Today, he was simply Marcus Daniels, walking into a courthouse to testify in a veterans' rights case. He had been invited to speak on the challenges soldiers faced when they returned home, the broken promises of healthcare, the silent battles of PTSD, the bureaucratic walls that crushed too many heroes before they could heal. Marcus carried nothing but a leather briefcase, a heart full of memories, and the unshakable belief that his country could do better. Yet, to some eyes, he wasn't a decorated general. He wasn't a war hero. He wasn't even a respected citizen. To some eyes, he was just a black man walking confidently where people thought he didn't belong. And unfortunately, one of those eyes belonged to Harlan. Leaned against the courthouse security station, a scowl carved deep into his pale face. He had been with the department for nearly 15 years, and in that time, his bitterness had only grown. He saw the courthouse as his domain, his fortress, and the people passing through it as intruders to be controlled, judged, and, if necessary, humiliated. He wasn't a man of discipline or honor. He was a man of resentment, feeding on power in small doses. Every time he barked an order, every time he stopped someone for no reason, he felt taller, stronger, more important. And when his eyes fell on Marcus Daniels, a tall black man in a sharp suit, walking with confidence, something ugly twisted in his chest. Who does he think he is? Harlan sneered inwardly. Walking like he owns the place. Not on my watch. He pushed himself away from the wall and moved through the crowd with purpose. His hand rested on his holster as if daring someone to challenge him. His voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the morning air. Hey, you there. Marcus turned his head slightly, brows furrowing. The officer was staring straight at him. Yes, officer. His tone was polite but firm, the kind of voice that had once given orders to thousands of troops. Step over here. Show me some ID. Around them, the crowd slowed. A few people stopped outright, curiosity pricking the air. Marcus adjusted the strap of his briefcase and walked toward Harlan, calm but cautious. Is there a problem? Harlan's eyes narrowed. I said show me your ID. Don't ask questions. Marcus inhaled slowly. He had dealt with this before, in airports, on city streets, even once outside his own home. The assumption that his skin made him suspicious. The demand that he justify his presence. The quiet, relentless sting of being treated as less than he was. Still, his discipline held. He reached into his wallet, pulled out his driver's license, and handed it over. Here you go. Harlan snatched it, scanning it with exaggerated scrutiny. Marcus Daniels, he read aloud, his tone mocking. What are you here for? I have a court appointment. I'm scheduled to testify. Harlan chuckled under his breath. Testify, huh? Yeah, sure. And I'm the president. Marcus's jaw tightened. Officer, I assure you, I am exactly who I say I am. I'm here on official business. But Harlan wasn't listening. He was circling Marcus now, sizing him up as though he were prey. You think wearing that suit makes you special? You think walking in here like you own the place makes you untouchable. Marcus's voice remained calm, though a storm brewed beneath the surface. I think every citizen deserves respect. Including me. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A young woman whispered to her friend, "Isn't that General Daniels? I saw him on TV once." Another man pulled out his phone, hitting record. But Harlan's pride was already ignited. He grabbed Marcus's arm roughly. "Hands where I can see them. Now." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Excuse me." Marcus's tone finally sharpened. "You heard me. Against the wall. I've done nothing wrong." Harlan shoved him harder. "Do it or I'll make you." The marble wall pressed cold against Marcus's back as Harlan pulled out his handcuffs. Cameras flashed. People shouted in protest. "That's too much." Someone yelled. "He hasn't done anything." Another voice cried. But Harlan was deaf to reason. With a smirk of satisfaction, he clamped the cold steel around Marcus's wrists. "Not so high and mighty now, huh?" he whispered cruelly. And in that moment, as humiliation burned through him, Marcus Daniels, the man who had led soldiers through deserts and jungles, the man who had stood before presidents and generals, knew one thing with absolute clarity. This officer had no idea who he was dealing with. He straightened his shoulders, his voice low but filled with warning. "Officer, you've just made the biggest mistake of your career." The cameras captured every word. And the stage was set for a reckoning that no one in that courthouse would ever forget.